Now, let's get to this polling. Like I said earlier, we don't really pay much attention to mid-term polling, because even though it's a weird, wanky thing to say when politicians go, well, the only poll that matters is on election day, it's kind of true. But we do look at the trends, and we always are interested in the preferred prime minister, because what that's doing is the scientific research is looking at these two people at this time and what they're thought of in that moment. So that's and you could say the same about the political vote, but the difference is the political vote means nothing because it's not an election day. The preferred prime minister also means nothing because it's not election day, but it does also lean to look at how the performance of the prime minister is doing. That's what the preferred prime minister tells us. If the prime minister is doing great, they're always way more preferred. If they're not, well, then they're called Mr Luxon.
A new political poll has Labour ahead of National with a 7-point gain since the election. The latest post-Freshwater strategy poll has Labour at 34% and National back at 32%. Now that
trend is happening. I am going to say this though, these jumps are outside the margin, and I don't trust them. They're massive. Those jumps are massive, up 7, down 6. But the trend has been the left bloc going up a little bit and the right bloc coming down a little bit. All of those have been within margin. Is this the accurate one now? Meaning all those margins are now being, and all of a sudden you've got a big jump? Or are we going to have to wait till the next poll to see what it is? This could be the outlier, Chewie, so we'll just have to wait and see.
There's a drop of 6 points since they took over in late 2023. ACT and New Zealand First both have 8%. The Greens are down, but only slightly to 11, while Te Pāti Māori are on 2. Labour's Chris Hipkins is also ahead of National.
So that's an interesting one. That is an interesting one. Significantly ahead, preferred prime minister. Remember, I said this at the last election in Chewie. You chastised for me for saying it, and you don't win elections if you're not the preferred prime minister. And what happened in the last kind of 3 months, Luxon became the preferred prime minister, National won. Be interesting again to see if this is an outlier or if this is part of the trend. And I'll be interested in our chat, Chewie, because I think lots of people in our chat, well, I won't say lots, I don't know if it's a majority or just a chunk, think that Chippy's a liability. They think that it should be someone else. But if this was accurate, what would be interesting is a preferred prime ministership with maybe some other names in there. That would be an interesting bit of research. 3, why don't you go and do another poll and leave Chippy out? Like, let's say that he's retired or he's resigned or whatever, and then you put Kieran in there, you put Barb Edmonds in there. Who else would you chuck in, Chewie? A few others in there as well, and then see who would get it. Like, what's Kieran versus Luxon? They do this in the American politics. They'll put up like Biden versus Trump, Biden versus DeSantis, Biden versus, and actually check them out. That would be an interesting piece of polling to do. If the leader of Labour was Kieran, how would he go as preferred prime minister? Interesting to see.
Well,
interesting little
thing.
Thing.
Put the cat amongst the pigeons, wouldn't it?
Well, I also realise it can't work because he's not prime minister. So Chippy's vote for preferred prime minister is based on his record and what he's doing as the leader. So it's, I wouldn't say it's the be all and end all, but it would be an interesting experiment.
National's Christopher Luxon in the preferred prime minister stakes, 43% to his 37%. So what is driving the swing? Here's Andrea Vance.
Christopher Luxon hoping a visit to China will boost economic growth, trade and tourism. But back at home, the budget hasn't done much to grow his vote. Labour has now pulled ahead of National in the latest post-Freshwater strategy poll, as nearly half of New Zealanders say the country is heading in the wrong direction, and cost of living concerns continue to dominate public sentiment.
But it's not quite enough for a change of government. Assuming all electorates won at the last election are held, National, New Zealand First and ACT would just cling to power with only a 1-seat majority.
The changes are reflective of the mood of the economy and the fact that people are feeling under pressure.
Also under pressure
Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, it just popped into my head.
Is Christopher Luxon. Chris Hipkins has pulled ahead in the preferred prime minister stakes.
Christopher Luxon is completely out of touch with what families are going through. The cost of living pressures have not got any easier under this government. And I think that people see Chris Hipkins as the alternative that actually understands the pressure that they are faced with.
The poll also has a favourability rating, and interestingly, it found the country's most popular political figure is former Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. National is brushing off their slump as midterm noise.
Polls bounce around a bit, they always do between elections. We're very focused on rebuilding the economy and restoring law and order and focusing.
You're not doing it very well, son. If you're very focused on rebuilding the economy, it's not going well. Has anyone told you?
On the issues that Kiwis want us to be focused on. Ultimately, Chris Hipkins is going to end up campaigning to be Prime Minister with Chloe Swarbrick, Rawiri Waititi, Debbie Narewa-Paka, and all of the crazies on the left side of the political spectrum. And I think ultimately...
Has he actually seen who's sitting around his cabinet table? The crazies he's talking about? I wonder if he's ever... Maybe it's in a dark room or something, and he can't see Nicole McKee and Brooke Van Velden and Winston Penis Police Peters. Maybe he doesn't see those guys around the cabinet table, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
There will be a very stark contrast at the 2026 election.
18 months out from that election, a warning for all parties.
There's no definitive data there that's showing a particular surge in one direction or the other, more an overall concern about the political situation and the economic situation. The numbers probably don't reflect a great strength for Labor. They reflect more a default position that people want to see more action to get back on track.
Because after all, get our country back on track was National slogan at the last election.
Craig Rennie. Oh, hello. I thought I pushed the thing. Hang on. Goodbye. Craig Rennie has been doing a podcast, and he did that speech in Christchurch last week, and one of the things he talked about was they're back on track, and he goes, are you feeling better off, New Zealand? It's like, well, that's true, actually. This is what they've promised. I mean, like, obviously we and many took the piss mercilessly out of back on track and, make America great again, but they haven't fulfilled their promise of getting New Zealand back on track. In fact, we're probably further off the track, truth be known. And it wasn't, we'll get New Zealand back on track if the world economy allows us, and it didn't have caveats to it. It was a bumper sticker. This is the downside of the bumper sticker. You've made the promise, you haven't fulfilled your promise. Chewie?
Yeah, like it's a nice, easy slogan. Like we've workshopped slogans before. Are we back on track enough yet? That's something that's going to come back and bite them. Do you feel better off?
Yeah.
On a big fucking billboard, do you feel better off than you did before the election? Does it feel like the adults are in the room? Does it feel like these economic policies are working? Is your grocery bill lower? Is your childcare costs lower? No, because they're not good at this. So vote for me. I also noticed that Bish's list of crazies were all Māori.
Yeah. I'm also interested in what they said about Jacinda, because I didn't see that on the 3 News story. I've got the Stuff article here about what's going on. There's the preferred Prime Minister, 43 to 37. And then just down here, former Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern remains the most popular political figure with a net favourability of plus 12.
No, she divided the country right down the middle. Half of us hated her and half of us loved her. And the point was that she's gone now. We drove her away.
Hipkins' favourability.
So how can that be true?
Hipkins' favourability climbed 5 points since November, while Luxon's has slipped to a net rating of negative 18.
Oh, look,
so Jacinda Ardern is plus 30 to Christopher Luxon.
What I'd like to say to you, Pat, is that I'm laser focused on getting my favourability stats up again, and we're working very, very hard to that. But Labor keep on taking away my favourability stats.
Anyone else think Barbara Edmonds could be PM? Yeah, I mean, I think Barb's great, and I think that her fiscal background makes her a very strong candidate. Look, I actually think, to make sure people didn't take this the wrong way, I think there's a place for Chippy as well. Depends what they want to do. Like if you think about the team, I'm sorry, Chewie, but I'm talking sports ball for a second. A team full of halfbacks would never get anywhere in a rugby game. You know, a team full of chippies would never get anywhere either. But if they've got the chippy, I mean, like, let's just say it, being the more centristy type person, and you've got the Karens being the bulldogs and calling themselves, did he call himself a Marxist or a communist? I can't remember. Which was it?
Socialist, very proud socialist.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So as much as we take the piss out of the middle management around Luxon, there is an element of football manager that you don't have to play the game as well as your players on the field, as long as you can organise them well, that a Prime Minister could do. What you just see in Luxon is he's not a good manager. Neither is he a good Prime Minister. In fact, he's got rebellious people that are realising that they need to actually fight against him in about 6 months from now, and they're laying the groundwork for that as we speak. Because ACT is not going to go quietly. They're going to want to take as many of those national voters as they can, as is New Zealand First. You know, this could well be the last run for Winston Peters, or he might go one more time, and they will be after Luxon's blood. Put it this way. Think about the debate, the leaders' debate, including Luxon and Seymour and Winston Peters, when Seymour and Winston Peters want to take Luxon's voters. That could be a very interesting watch. Let's hope that these media outlets don't just do the two main leaders in the minor parties. Let's hope there's a proper one, because that could be fascinating to see Seymour let loose at Luxon, because he'll have to.
I am very happy to eat a big old plate of crow if Labor romps home with Chippy in the leadership, because the strategy that he told us was the correct one. Doesn't feel good, because I want a different thing. You know, I want a different version of Labor up there. I want the Greens and Te Pāti Māori to have a greater say. But hey, if it means that this coalition of cunts is out on their ass, then I will eat that humble pie and say that I was wrong.
And just remember, when that's what you're looking for, remember how much ACT and New Zealand First have gotten through of their policy. We're about to change, basically, well, not about to change, we possibly could change the whole way New Zealand does politics because of an ACT policy they're trying to push through with the Regulatory Standards Bill. That's the 8% party. You know, those minor parties can hold the feet to the fire of the larger partner if they play it right. Now, the left have never been good at that. The left have never been good at playing politics. I've said it before, and sorry again, Chewie, sports ball, but the left are very happy to play a good game but lose. The right will play the ugliest game they can. They'll break rules, they'll eye gouge, they'll do everything they can as long as they win. The left gets to the end and goes, oh, well, lads, you know, there was a few unlucky bounces of the ball there, but we did our best and we had a crack. And I'm just like, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
I mean, Bish just called them all crazy. So that's the new standard. Get Duncan Webb out there and start going, they're just full of shit. Or for fuck's sake, what are these cunts up to? Let Kieran off the chain.
Yeah, I think you'll probably see that. If you want the Greens or TPM to have a greater say, vote Greens or TPM. I think that's a pretty fair thing to say.
Green Party member here as of a few weeks back, and also I've only, like, as much as I bang on about I want Labor to succeed, I say that because they're the dominant party on the left. I've only ever voted for Labor once. The rest of the time I have always said that I am a green voting Labor supporter, but I think so many elections have gone past that I just need to get comfortable saying that I am a green voter.